We've just said we want to be Olympic champions. So how do Canada as Olympic champions behave? And I'll remind everybody that we failed in that goal. We didn't become Olympic champions, but it was the greatest failure I've ever had in my life. And we still, you can lose a gold medal or you can win a silver. And I think through our year and just the environment, or the consistent environment maybe, that was created in that last year, because the few years before wasn't good. That was the real feeling of winning a silver. And that wasn't just one weekend, it was a full year to build to win it, for sure.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Trauma Training Transformation, the space where we explore what movement is to us individually, but the powerful way it can work on any tension through trauma or lived experiences. Today is another episode where we discuss how movement has shaped our lives. We've got a really special guest today. He comes from Ireland, through Nova Scotia onto the Olympic stage, where he took the Canadian Sevens team to Olympic glory, where they got the silver medal. Jack Hanratty, thank you for joining us today. For the benefit of the audience, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, James. Jack Hanratty, rugby coach, Irish Canadian, and entertainer slash rugby fan.
Jack, you're well renowned for your success on the Olympic stage, but what shaped you as a young coach back in Ireland? What made you the coach that you are today?
Yeah, I'm well renowned now. As an Olympic person, I'd say it's funny how things can change in a week. And as someone said after we got the medal, you'll always have something under your name now, which is lovely. But it was a long time getting there. It's a long slog, but a really, really enjoyable one. I'm from a rugby family. I've always loved rugby, played it. I wouldn't say I was any game changer as an athlete, but just loved the game, loved the values of it, loved just being involved, whether that was setting up the video camera, where it was taking pictures, whether it was coaching, whether it was refereeing, whether it was behind the sweet shop of my local rugby club, whether it was setting up the jerseys for the locker room or dressing room to look good. I just loved being around the game. Probably for years I was trying desperately to find a coach that reminded me of myself, and I think somebody recently said, like, maybe just be happy with who you are. It's funny because my parents are the people that have certainly shaped me to be the coach that I am in a big way. I still feel I'm chasing being as good of people as my mum and dad are. They're fantastic people that I get along with so well. My mum was kind of from a rugby family. I think my dad gave me a little bit of the public speaking and the art side of it, drama and singing. The last thing I thought, or if you look around the rugby world looking for coaches that are a artsy rugby coach, you don't find them a lot. But I used to kind of really feel like those are totally different worlds, and I think it's only in the last kind of maybe 5-6 years that I've really embraced that and said that no, that was part of my makeup to I suppose make me a different sort of coach.
Awesome, mate. Thank you. So you talked a little bit about the game and your identity around the game and what you felt was missing. So what drew you from being a part of the game to identify as being a coach and coaching of people?
I just think it was I was just like, it was so magnetic to just be involved. Like, I loved game days with my province here, Leinster, but I also love game days with my local club of Skerries, and any opportunity that I could, any way to wear a logo, I wanted to, like in an official capacity. I really enjoyed doing that, and that's honestly, James, I never thought I'd be a long-term coach. I always enjoyed coaching youngsters, and started off with an under-11s team with a friend of mine from around the corner. Rob McGauley just was coaching his son, and he said, listen, will you give me a hand? And I just never thought I was, that was how it started. I never thought that I'd still be doing this hobby of mine.
And like your journey initially, you got involved in the game to help other people. And rugby in Ireland, same as most other rugby playing communities, are about identity, friendship, community. But during your experience, you learned another powerful trait, which is leadership. What was the early influences to shaping your leadership style as coach?
Failure, I'd say. I was a really young coach, and I still like to claim I am. But I did realise that when I was at a Sport Nova Scotia event a few weeks ago, there was a poster of me and a poster of loads of other people, but the word beside me wasn't youthful anymore, it was experienced. So I think I've had to move on. It's definitely failure. Being a young coach, I think you've got that trait where you don't feel good enough when you're on edge quite a lot, and I think we have that in most walk of life. So I don't think anyone is ready for the job that they get. Like, and if they are, well, maybe it's the wrong job, because maybe they've taken a step backwards, or to the side, or focusing on other aspects of their life. But I think my leadership at the start, I think I was probably loud, just because I felt vulnerable being a young coach. I didn't know everything, and instead of being like, I can carry a room and I'm comfortable to public speak, but if you fill all the space, well, no one has time to challenge you, or nobody has time to really think about it. And that worked at that time because it's probably, and you'd know more than I would, but it's probably a little bit more military-esque, where you're like, you're just do as I say. And I'd say that as my own knowledge and as maybe my own philosophies and different teams that have changed, I think my leadership style has definitely changed, and the voices in the environment are really, really important. But I'd say I still fail on that on a regular basis. You can have the best laid plans about it, but I do feel like my leadership style has totally changed over the last number of years, and it's still going, and I'm still trying to get away from that 18-year-old, 19-year-old coach that felt vulnerable, that I didn't know enough. And now I feel like, I'm still chasing being better and having a bit of knowledge, but I think that change is just so frequent.
Well, you shaped your early years as a coach in Ireland, and then made the big move to Nova Scotia. What was that like? What was that first moment of stepping off the plane to Nova Scotia and the big world of Canada and rugby in that community?
I think the first thing for me was that just the power of sport. You'll know as well as I will, in terms of like when you're moving country, it's incredibly daunting. Yeah, you're like, okay, I don't have, even so simple. I can't go around to a family's house on a Sunday for dinner. Who am I going to spend any holidays with? And if I need someone to help me move a couch, who do I have? And the power of sport was that as soon as I landed in Nova Scotia, it's such a beautiful place in terms of its landscape, but it's a beautiful place in terms of its people as well. And I instantly had rugby people that were happy to. mm, they were happy to bring me for lunch or have a beer, or just do these things. And even though I didn't earn that, I believe that people were very open to trusting me really, really early. And I just think it's so. I owe a lot to people of Nova Scotia and to my life there, and I take a lot of claim there, and I make sure I go back and visit on a regular basis. It was daunting. I came over here to coach rugby, and to, you're moving to a province and country that you've barely been to, and then you're asked to be a leader in their hobby. And if I would think about it in that way, I think I don't know if I would have even got on the plane. I think I was just so excited being young and moving countries and having a new job that I maybe didn't think about that. But now when I reflect and I look back, I was very young, on a plane, moved country, got the visa stamped, arrived in an organisation I didn't know, in a sport that I did know, but only in an Irish context. Like, that was certainly pretty tough, and my whole thing was to jump into it, fully invest into it 100%. And I failed a lot, but also just it probably shaped me to certainly the working person I am today.
You came into Nova Scotia, where they're often seen as the underdog in Canada rugby, a beautiful community, a small rugby community where everyone knows your name kind of feeling. I'm very fortunate. I worked with you in various roles in Nova Scotia, and as much as leadership is obviously a really good quality of yours, another thing that goes unmentioned really is your compassion for individuals, and also your quite obvious personality. So how do you think those qualities help you change the trajectory of Nova Scotia rugby?
Yeah, I think now I'm empathetic for sure, and trying to put myself in the athlete's perspectives. Like the thing I noticed about the rugby community in Nova Scotia is that like I was a paid professional. I was paid to be the executive or technical director of Nova Scotia, whatever term it was that week. Everyone else, it was their hobby, and they would like not only their hobby, but it's an expensive hobby. Like people were spending so much money to represent their province, their club, their university, and their region. And I had so much respect for it because, we're very lucky in Ireland and teams in the UK that if you get to a good level, you're usually not paying a lot. If anything, you might get your mileage or you might get a few bob. And like, I think that maybe removes the old school feeling of it and maybe takes away from it a little bit in the professional game. So that's where the empathy probably started. I was like, oh my God, like I have to be way better because they are paying for this. Like, and if they're paying, we better be good because it's a service. When you go and you buy a coffee on a Monday morning, you don't want to buy coffee. You're paying for it.
Yeah.
The worth is way higher. And that was huge. And then just, yeah, like I think my personality, I think was created through like, I think I'm a good storyteller, but my dad is way better than me. But I think I learned that through him. Like I love having a laugh in every environment. I think it's really, really important. But I think my personality was certainly tailored through, being a drama kid and learning things on stage and being okay performing and failing on stage in front of people. I think like that's such oh, geez, I'd go bright red right now even thinking about it. But those are things that you kind of um and I use this philosophy a lot in rugby where the first line of improv is just say yes. And like I think when you're on stage, when things go wrong, you can't just kind of like leave the stage. You've kind of just got to do it. Like, okay, someone's forgotten two lines. You actually have to get out of it. You can't just stop and rewind. Someone's got to pick it up. It's the same in rugby, but it's probably the same in coaching and in life and without trying to be too preachy here. But it like that line I think is really, really important. It's control the controllables and just say yes. Or the other line with improv is yes and. So as soon as someone does it, you can either respond or you can react. And I think I got better at responding to things. I think at times especially when I started the seventh job at Canada, like I played the victim a little bit pretty early on because they'd lost money, players had retired, or some people didn't want me in the role. But I think as I grew into the role, I got much more into celebrating the haves, not the have-nots, and being in a mindset of responding rather than reacting.
One thing about mental health in any walk of life really is the first thing we do is judge. And we start looking inwards instead of looking for reward, we're looking at judgment and criticism. And it's often overstated, really, just how much that can have an impact longer term in your life. But I want to take this opportunity, Jack, if you don't mind, I've worked with you. I've gone on to work with the Celtics for a number of years. And I've got to say, both the women and men's game is much the healthier now because of the foundations that you put in. Not just the rugby ones, but the social and the community elements too. Making rugby, yes, it's a sport and we all should enjoy it, but also enjoying each other. And then I think the growth of the game is so much better because of your influence. So thank you very much for that. And I hope those who are listening would echo those terms in Nova Scotia, especially this year. So in 2025, the U19s, the women and the men winning the Atlantic tournament is all testimony to your work ethic off the field, but also the skills transferred through the players through the years. So thank you very much. During your time in Nova Scotia, you had to build a program, influence stakeholders to make the game more established, but it must have also had a new and changing influence on your life. So how did going to Nova Scotia shape your resilience and belief, not just in sport, but in yourself?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks. I think I really appreciate the comments, but I certainly would need to go back and just say that like I came in at a really good time. Like I am a unique personality and I'm not embarrassed about that anymore. Like I think I've got a big energy and and it's kind of almost like a lead singer or a frontman. But everyone behind was absolutely massive, and there was just such a willingness for being okay with something new, which I think is so powerful. Like, people weren't just like, oh, this guy's going to come in and change things, and this is going to be big. But like the influences of like all the board directors, led by Gino Carew, I think he's the guy that I think Rugby Nova Scotia need to create a Hall of Fame and stick that guy in it straight away. Um, he was a guy that I don't think knew how good he was and his vision, but also the thing that I really have taken on from him is that he's a completely different personality for me. I think if people know us both separately, I don't think they'd be like, well, those guys wouldn't be friends. Gino's a person I care about so much in the world, and the thing that I loved about his leadership was he knew what he had and knew what he didn't have. And I think he didn't have some of the stuff that I have in my X Factors, and I didn't have a lot of his X Factors. And the two of us probably are wrecked his head, because I probably spoke to him about 19 times a day while we were trying to change this and build this. And then it just felt like it was a domino, because people got on board rather than like kind of went, oh, that's that new energy or whatever Gino and Jack are doing isn't great. But it felt like it was the snowball running down the hill. It felt like it just kept picking up pace, and now it's gone beyond, and I haven't been there in a number of years. And when I see all those success this year, I got to be there standing there with a beer this year, James, as you saw me. Like, I got to sit there and enjoy it, not have a role, and I was honestly honoured. Like, I didn't know these kids' names. I knew a lot of the coaches' names, which was really special to me, but I didn't know the kids' names. And I think since I've left, they've gone and got other X Factors. They've got some really great people in the staff there, and I just hope it keeps going from strength to strength. So yeah,
I agree. Gino Carew has done immense stuff for not just Celtics, but Nova Scotia in general when it comes to rugby. And I, again, benefited from working with a unique individual. When setting up new programs, you come with your personality too. But what were your non-negotiables? Not just about culture, but about the sport in general?
yeah. I think what's really important is when you're appreciating someone's hobby, which is what this is. You've got a duty of care for the sport as well. Like, my two non-negotiables at the moment are whether I'm your coach or your colleague. Like, we have to be able to meet each other in the street in 50 years and walk across and say hello. Like we have to be able to do that. And whether we have differences of opinion or different philosophies on different things, the relationship is still got to stay positive from a staff and from an athlete coach perspective. And then you've got to continue to enjoy the sport afterwards. Like, even at the national team level, or as we were building up the Celtics, like, I don't want that your last day when you leave, that you retire or you're not coaching anymore, that the hoodie is thrown into the bottom of a bag and never seen again, or you give it away. Like, I still would love the idea. I still wear my Celtic stuff, and I'm really, really proud of it. And I'd say people are laughing at me about how much I've worn my Olympic stuff or my Rugby Canada stuff, but I'm really proud about it. Like, I like being able to leave and be proud and be a supporter as well. And I think that's a really, really important thing, that like you always, especially in hobbies and stuff, that like, because like, if you're working, you got a family, and rugby is that hobby, you want to enjoy that. And sometimes we can forget about that like sometimes it'll stress us out or really upset us, because because hobbies are led by passion. And I'm really lucky that I get to work in a lot of people's hobby, but it's sometimes I'll be criticized through passion a little bit more, and I have to kind of take that on as and almost like, again, that goes back to the empathy part. Like, take an understanding of where they're coming from, that like they might have been sitting on a desk job from 8 to 5, of which they enjoy, but then they really get the enjoyment out of their hobby. And I'm very, very lucky, and I know I am, that I get to, my hobby is also the thing I get paid to do, which is really, really great. But that's a really, really important part about any environment, is understanding where everyone is actually coming from.
So whilst at Nova Scotia, you worked with the Canada senior women's team in various roles, and then the stakes increased. You got the Canada Sevens job. How did that impact you? How did you have to evolve, not just as a coach, but your leadership style during that process?
So when I got the job, it was probably I wasn't seen as a very likely or a candidate that the rugby country wanted. I was very affordable, and I was very available. And those are two good things, I think, at that time, because the program was going through a little bit of a restructure. They'd been in the media for some culture issues. They'd underperformed at the last Olympics, and I'd say their top candidate, who's a friend of mine, turned it down. So I was probably like, kind of, when you look around the room, okay, you'll be okay. You go in there, and I think some people forget I was interim, and when I was first announced as coach, it was November, and I was announced as the interim coach until Christmas. And when the announcement went out, I was really, really excited, because this was probably one of my dream jobs. And suddenly the announcement basically said Jack Hanratty interim coach, but then underneath it said, like, full-time coach will be announced after Christmas. And essentially I read that kind of going, oh, like, they don't really want me in this. I don't even know if they're even going to watch me do this. Like, I'm just, opening the shop, and then someone else will come in and take it over. And that was tough, because the excitement of this, what I felt was a pinnacle of my career, I didn't get to celebrate or enjoy. And the biggest issue, or the biggest regret that I probably have, is when I put on that logo and I came into the environment, I just presumed people would, like, kind of buy into me, and that's not fair. That's a bad mistake on my end. Just because you're given the job or the polo shirt doesn't mean you're good enough for the job or for the logo. And I believe that every environment and every person is either trust first or perform first. And the cycle is, I'll trust you and then I'll perform for you, or I'll perform for you so that you trust me. And I am very much I'll trust everybody first. And yeah, like, I could lose that trust. But a lot of those athletes were this high performance, masculine mindseted athletes that needed me to perform before they trust me. And I think it took a long time for me to perform. And I tried to make the environment as inclusive and as positive, as happy as possible, but I should have shown them that I was, maybe even if I wasn't good enough, that I was really going to do everything in my power to get good enough. And that was probably the biggest issue for when I started in that job.
So once you got the job, how did you balance the high standards that had to be maintained or increased with care for the players and the staff around you, whilst also being constantly scrutinized by everyone within the community?
The standards, I think, as previously mentioned, I don't think I set the standards as high as I should have. There's a lot of retirements, a lot of young players in, and, like, they don't know what they don't know. And also, I was a very young coach, and I don't know what I don't know either. And there wasn't a lot of institutional knowledge at that time, so I got a lot of those things wrong. But we got there in the end. Like, we came together as a group, we created what our standards were, what our behaviors should be on a day-to-day basis, and things really started motoring in a positive way after that. The scrutiny was hard. You're seeing people slam your team and you on social media. I had to switch that off a bit, and I know I'm a person that likes to get the pat on the back, like else. But I also, at that time, you're a young coach, and you're first time you're head coach of a national team at this level, at this senior World Rugby level. I'm chasing around, and I am looking at what the community are saying, and that's stupid. And you can say that, I don't look at that, but you do. Like, it does get to you. So then I switched off the social media, and then started getting a lot of abusive texts, which was really, like, because now it feels like it's gotten to your personal life. That was really tough. Because we were, and it felt like you're in quicksand, because, and this is the other thing, is that, I'm getting abusive texts. I don't know who they're from, and they're very intelligent, and it's a different number every time I get a text, so I can't block it. A lot of people would say, "Oh, just block that." I can't. Like, I think there's an app. I didn't even know this existed, but they texted a different number every time. Like, some really, really tough things, and you don't want to tell people, because you're trying to be a leader to the athletes, you're trying to be a leader to your staff, but, like, you're trying to cope with this on a regular basis, and that stuff was really, really hard, and because you don't feel good enough, and then it's, as I said, it's quicksand, which means, like, then you lose another game and you feel like you're sinking and you're going down, and suddenly then you're more on edge, and then, people will notice that you're on edge, and or else you've got to put on this big, big show, which is probably a bit easier for me because of my drama background, but it's from an emotional standpoint, it's not easy. And a lot of people will always look at me and say, happy-go-lucky, big bubbly personality, but then you go home, and when you go home, you're just like, I was living away from my friends, away from family, and I'm in a new place again out in BC, and that part of it was really tough, like really tough. And I don't even know if I have advice of how to make it better, but it was really made me sit down and think, like, is this high performance world for me? And this is a team, like, we're not Manchester United, not the Toronto Maple Leafs, we're not these huge brands. We're a national team, for sure, and it's important to people. I was just thinking, like, whoa, like, this is affecting me. And I think that the person texting was probably just one person. My God, did it rally you,
So you talked there a little bit about the abusive side of the scrutiny and the criticism online. So what people don't see is obviously that hidden impact on you as an individual as well as the coach. So for those who are listening, what would you share then about that hidden cost, really? What people might not understand fully about the mental health impact on coaches in sport, but also what leadership and mentorship, how key those skills are in elite sport.
I think like in elite sport, you need lots of different people, everybody from athletes, assistant coaches, therapists, strength and conditioning. Like, everybody needs different people in the environment and outside the environment. You need a person to rub you on your back when you need it, to lift you up a bit. You need people that you can bounce ideas off, and you need people that will call you out to say, like, hey, like, you need to, no, that's not good enough, like, let's go. Like, you need all those people, or else it's not high performance. Like there is no high performance environment in the world that was just happy and bubbly the whole time. Like, there's got to be friction. If you're doing high performance, friction has to happen at certain stages. Like, that's really, really important, in my opinion. What I realized was the text of, like, good luck or good job before and after games became less and less as we weren't doing well. And I realized that, like, I didn't think I was missing that. Like, I didn't think that was an important thing to me, but you noticed it when it started going. And then I had a group of people that I feel like did not leave my side from start to finish. And they just became the important people. They're the people that after the Olympics I wanted to buy dinner for, and I wanted them to enjoy this particular moment, because I don't think they knew how important they were for me. And there was people that would know me as a human being. So after big losses, wouldn't say any words of wisdom, but would just text or send something. And sometimes it would even be a joke, James. Like, sometimes it would even be like, that didn't go well. But at least I knew that they were there. And that was something that I always felt like I was a person that could, handle a lot on my own, but I still think I can. But, like, those are the people that were vital for me. And I think if there's any advice, it's just knowing your people and allowing them to into that moments of ecstasy, but also moments of real.
Thank you for sharing that, Jack. One of the criteria was for you to get to the Olympics, and you achieved that, which is a great achievement both for yourself and also for the team. So what was that process like? We're going to Olympics. It's another thing that you've got to continue to grow towards, but also prepare for. So as a coach, what was that like for you?
Yeah, getting there, because, like, there's sometimes really, really hard ways to get there, sometimes a bit easier. So USA had performed really, really well the year before, which meant that our process, because we were North America, became a bit easier. And we were playing against non-professional teams. So getting there in our regional competition ended up being pretty easy. And, I'm sitting there and my heart is beating out of my chest in that final game. We had to win to go to the Olympics. And we're playing against, we won by a significant margin. But still, you're not feeling it until the final whistle goes and you go, okay, finally we've done it. Like, great. So those things, I think, and we enjoyed that moment, but it felt like we hadn't really achieved anything. When we officially stamped our ticket to Paris, we kind of went like, that was pretty easy. Like, I hadn't proven that I was a good coach. I think the players hadn't proven that they were deserved Olympians yet. But we had to start off really, really simply by going, what is our goal here? Do we want to be Olympians, or do we want to be Olympic champions? And at the end of the day, everybody kind of looked around, and we had ups and downs, and we did a real, like, a year out from the Olympics, we took a real hard look at ourselves, and we weren't good enough because we were 10th. We'd finished 10th and 9th overall, but yet we were still saying we wanted to be on a podium at the Olympics. That's impossible. We turned things into, we created like signposts along the year. We did very active assessments along the way of the athletes, technically, tactically, physically, and mentally. And we had check-ins regularly with those. You know, we brought in a lot of different players. We tried to gain more competitions as much as possible. We worked with a lot of different coaches across Canada to come in. We reshaped our staffing structure to really focus on the Olympics, which probably had a bit of detriment in other aspects, but played a real positive for us. And then we set behaviors like, okay, we've just said we want to be Olympic champions. So how do Canada as Olympic champions behave? And I'll remind everybody that we failed in that goal. We didn't become Olympic champions, but it was the greatest failure I've ever had in my life. And we still, you know, you can lose a gold medal or you can win a silver. And I think through our year and just the environment, or the consistent environment maybe, that was created in that last year, because the few years before wasn't good. That was the real feeling of winning a silver. And that wasn't just one weekend. It was a full year to build to win it, for sure.
That's great reflection on how you see things, and no one can take that away from you. But you've got to be honest too. You know, you and the girls in that team untapped pure talent and ability to go from 10th to get into the final Olympics. But what was that Olympic experience all about? What was in camp like during the Olympics, and then building up to that magical moment, both as a coach, but as a group?
Yeah, like, it was, I feel rude because it was really enjoyable. And I had so many other, you know, my debut tournament, you know, going to a sevens World Cup, a 15s World Cup, where high stress, I managed to enjoy a lot of it, but I really enjoyed the Olympics. There's always things that are ups and downs, and we didn't have a perfect week by any means. Like, we had injuries, we'd issues with lots of different things, but I still felt like as a group and staff, we still got to enjoy the week. Felt like we enjoyed it, and I felt like we had an element of confidence. But I think the athletes had an important thing, which is like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, what was the worst thing that could happen? And the worst thing that could happen at the Olympics is, obviously, apart from medically an injury, and we had a lot of injuries, and those really affected the groups. And I think about a lot of those athletes, not only at the games, but prior to, and think what I could have done. Did I offer them enough support? And I think realistically the answer is no. And I'd love to take some of those moments back. At the time I did what I thought I should do, but you never know in these things. But the games itself was just it's so much bigger than our team. It's Team Canada. It's rugby and the biggest global stage there is in the world. And then it's the Olympic Games. And like, every single human being in the world knows what the Olympic Games are. And I think I undervalued it until I went in, but we did have a rule that we needed to pick moments to just appreciate that we were there. And then also, when you go into the village, like, there's high energy, and you can lose it. You can lose the running yourself. Go get the free stuff. And we had to come back a number of times, including myself. And again, I say a lot of these things, and I want to make sure people know that it's not me coming up with all these ideas. This was us as a group. I'm just telling you what we as a group did. Some of them were my ideas, but a lot of them were the athletes or the amazing staff that I had. But we definitely found moments just to appreciate and feel so happy that we got to be there. And I think that's it, because if we only built that final minutes of either a bronze game or a gold medal game, if you fail, if you hit the post, and if you don't achieve the target of a podium, is does that mean the whole year was failure? So I think changing a mindset of enjoying, I don't want to say enjoying the journey because I feel like it's it sounds a bit fluffy, but like, but actually enjoying the whole process and all of us together on a regular basis and appreciating that there's times where they will be the leading role in our story, or they might be a support role. And if injuries happen, suddenly those roles change really, really quickly. But enjoying it became a real big part of it. And I do feel selfish in saying it, but I did enjoy the Olympic Games. Like I really enjoyed it.
You and the team represented Canada in the best way possible. You made the Olympics. Now, though, with the weight of expectation from Canada to go there, perform, what was that like? You get to the final, all stakes are on you, the weight of expectations on Jack Hanratty's shoulders, but equally the players. How did you manage that expectation, but also manage the players so they could stay grounded? How did you manage the result? Your silver medalist, Jack Hanratty, and the ladies are Olympians. How did you do all that?
Yes, it feels so. Like sevens is so wild. Like 15s, you're playing a game on a Saturday. Your next game might be a Saturday or 3 months later. Like it's so different. Sevens, we played an Olympic semi-final, and 2.5, 3 hours later we're playing an Olympic final. So we've now beaten Australia. No one was expecting it. We knew we could. We now win. We get off the field. We ring the bell, which was the tradition of the Olympics. We go through the media, which a lot more people are interested in us now. And then we go in and we've won a medal. Like it's amazing that you've won a game. And this is the first time we've done it all year. You'd won a game, and that meant that you are an Olympic medalist, and you still have to go play another game. It's wild. We also were playing in the final. We were playing against a team that murdered us. 2 days earlier. Like 2 days earlier, they had hammered us. The same team, they'd been unbeaten. They looked unstoppable. But we had this new confidence. We were like, no, let's give this a go. And we came in, and one of the most amazing memories I've ever had was I walked into the locker room after the media, and the athletes were in a circle singing the national anthem because they were about to sing it in an Olympic final. And they'd never done it as a group before. I'm walking in, and we just beaten Australia, and they're singing the anthem and they're practicing, and I was just like, I was grabbing Jocelyn Barrio and Ian and Jen and Danielle to try and go in and just listen to this and feel the hairs go up on the back of your neck, and it was incredible. And I was just listening, and then to make it the moment one of the athletes just goes, I don't, in the middle of singing the anthem, I don't know the French bit very well. And there was this brilliant human moment in the middle of these two games where one of the girls just goes, just mouth it, you'll be fine. Just pretend. And I'm sitting there going, that's so us, that's so human. And now we're laughing. And I was just like, okay, let's go. Let's get to work. We stuck to our exact same process about how we could beat New Zealand, because we did a review of how we lost to them a couple of days later. So we didn't have to do that much work. We recycled the work and showed it off. I think I should have been more. There was one opportunity that I felt could score against New Zealand. And, reflecting back and watching the game, we could have. I should have been more passionate about that or throwing that in a few more. But our mindset was, if we don't win a gold medal, it's not because we weren't in the fight. And we were underdogs, but we'd felt a couple of days ago when we lost them by a huge amount, that actually that was unfair. We just didn't attack very well. We didn't look after the ball very well, but actually we didn't play that badly. So there was still an air of like, no, we're in it. We just, after beating Australia, who are odds on to win either gold or silver, and now we had a new confidence. And yeah, I wish we could have got over that line. We lost by one score. We were winning at half time, which was amazing. But at the end of the day, when we brought in all the emotions, we got to then go in, put on the podium tracksuit, which you're not allowed to wear unless you get onto a podium. We got to go out. We got to watch the athletes stand up, do the Olympic wave, get to present the medal and bow. And we brought it in straight away after the game. There was tears, there was disappointment, but we had agreed that we would enjoy winning a silver medal. And I think we did then. We did that night, and I think we have since.
I would like to say congratulations, Jack, to you and the team winning silver. the Olympics is a great achievement, and you should be very proud. And if failing at that high level is getting a silver, then every credit to you, and love to see what's going to happen in the future, especially with the new job. But now, if you look back, the Olympic journey has ended. When you reflect, what's the first emotion that strikes you?
It's great. It's a great question. I'm so proud. Felt I wasn't good enough for this job. I'm still not good enough for that job. But I felt I put a lot into it. I've definitely felt I put a lot into it, and it's amazing what you can do with passion and energy, because I wasn't an Olympic medal winning coach when I got that job, and I've left the role as one. And if I ended my rugby career then, and I did decide to take a step away while it was going well, but a lot of it was down to just the toll that it took on myself as well. But it's so much pride. Like I want to rethink it. I want to remember it all the time, and I want to remember those first interactions that I had with not only the athletes and the staff, but actually Canadians in general, and how much joy that they got out of that moment was really special. And I'm a very proud Canadian. I've got my passport, and although I've moved on to a new job and a rival country, I'll always be a really proud Canadian, and I'll always have that memory forever. I almost am a bit embarrassed that I get to have one of the best seats in the house to watch an historical moment for Canadian women's rugby.
So, thank you again for sharing that. But when you look at that journey getting to the Olympic final, what tangible thing can you reflect on? What was that moment? You had an incredible group of skillful athletes, but when did you notice that resilience more than talent carried that group forward and got to the final and got the silver medal?
We played Fiji at the very start. Like I could pick so many different moments. When one of our top athletes got injured, we bounced back in the build-up. Another injury, we bounced back. We played France like a week before the Olympics in a full contact game, which was a risk. And we knew we'd likely play them in the quarterfinals. We played them twice, and they hammered us in the morning, and we weren't good. We were missing tackles. Our play wasn't good. And then we had an hour break, and then we went to play them again. And one of the athletes just said, like, I'm not at these games to just be at the games. I've already been there. Like, can we, let's put our bodies on the line. And because my line was always, we have to be battle ready. Like we shouldn't feel fresh going into the Olympics. We just should feel battle hardened, battle ready. And we use that a lot. And then we played Fiji, and we knew this was a huge game. Fiji were the current bronze medal from Tokyo, and they were a team that kind of we bounced back and forth. We'd beaten, but they'd beaten us more times than we'd beaten them. This was the pivotal game one of the Olympics. Sun was shining in Paris, and the average ball and play time we had prepared for, because you have to be kind of ready for that activity. And it was the longest ball and play time, the first action of the game, the first moment of the Olympics. Both teams were dead. It was back to back to back to back. And it slowed down for a scrum once, but it did not stop. And even the commentators' energy going, oh my God, this game nobody was scoring, but it was ball in play so much. And we ended up scoring. We scored the first try, first punch, and all the players just like absolutely dead. But I just remember getting to half time, and they just were looking around, they were connecting with each other. And what I say is probably irrelevant at that stage, but I just felt they were so transactional. It was like, we need to do this a little bit better, and we need to keep doing this. And I just was like, okay, no one's feeling sorry for themselves, even though that was such a long, hard thing to do. And we got out of it. And I think we only won by a score, but I think we looked like Fiji scored the last play of the game. But it was like, and after we won, I was so happy. I knew that that was such a big part of it. I was so happy. The athletes weren't. Okay, I'm done. And I was just like, okay, and I think they gave me that moment of just a recheck, because I was just so relieved to win the first game. Fiji had knocked them out of the previous Olympics. For me, just the relief of getting this game was so huge. So that was the moment that I just felt like we could do something special.
Hey everyone, do me a big favor, please. Like, share, subscribe. this episode to your friends or to anyone who you believe might need to hear it. It helps with my channel to grow it, but also share the conversations with people out there who will benefit from using movement and these shared experiences to benefit their life. Jack, thank you very much for sharing that emotional journey that you've been on. And you mentioned earlier on about that criticism pre-Olympics. But what about during the cycle and the final? What emotional impact did that have on you individually as a coach?
Yeah, like a lot of people said it to me that like I didn't when the TV and the cameras came on you more as you were winning, right? So the camera was on you a lot, and I watch a lot. I watch on the field, and then I look up to the screen, and suddenly it's you on the screen, and I'm like, I can't believe my face is on the screen in Stade de France, like one of the coolest stadiums in the world. But I was very just like. I think that maybe two of the games out of the five I underperformed in terms of my substitutions. But I felt like as a staff we actually did a really good job in terms of our dealing with lots of stuff that happened, dealing with the substitutions. I definitely think I got some of my player time wrong, but I like the way I'm reflecting not on the emotion of the whole thing. I'm glad I'm reflecting on my job, which was to lead on the sideline. And I enjoyed the final whistles of every game except two. But it was like I was pretty proud of just how we regulated ourselves as a staff in a big way. But I made sure that after every win and just before the games, before the teams ran out, I wanted to enjoy the moment because this could be the biggest highlight of my own career, and I wanted to make sure that I took just 5 seconds to just really enjoy being there.
Coming from Ireland and spending time in Nova Scotia during your coaching journey, I also got to watch you at the Commonwealth Games through that tournament, and these environments that you've been part of. How did they ground you both as a coach, but also help you cope with pressure in high performance environments?
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have been involved in those really, really high performance moments. But I think some people don't know this, that like it's exactly the same when you're coaching under 12 or at the Olympic Games. Like you still want to win. We're all competitive. If you're involved in sport, like nothing changes. I think the next game that I coached was an invitational Nova Scotia Blue Nose team that went over and played 3 friendlies against Ireland. I was still on the sideline, probably just as passionate I was in my last game, which was the Olympic Games. That never changes. Like no matter what, if you're a passionate sports person, we have had the same feelings. Sure, like the added energy or pressure certainly adds to it, but in game, it's exactly the same. It genuinely feels exactly the same. And I'm not devaluing the Olympics. I'm not devaluing coaching Canada, but I'm actually valuing sport. No matter what the level, as long as you're trying to win, or it's not like a kind of an inclusive team, like you're trying to perform and you want to see things that you've done at training on the field, it's exactly the same. And that's what I think keeps bringing me back. So whenever I talk to anyone that coaches sport, like we're talking the same language, because we've all had the exact same emotions. Some of the scales might have been different or pressure points might have been different, but in game, it's exactly the same.
Anyone who meets you, Jack, be coached by you, working with you, or having a conversation with you, your personality is infectious. You've always got that cheeky Irish grin on your face. You've always got a story to tell. But what makes that really special about you is you're very human. You're very real. There's nothing fake about you. But when you coach, you're often very vulnerable in those moments because you're sharing a bit of you whilst also showing some technical and tactical ability. How does that resonate with athletes, and how do they respond with that human side of the coach?
I think it takes a while, especially I just met some of the USA players recently of my new job, and I met them on a sideline after they were playing. And some of the Canadian athletes that I've coached for years came over. Emma Taylor, who's one of the guests on your show, like she was one of them that come over and absolutely just razzed me, made jokes and made fun of me. And the American players were about, what's this about? And I did the exact same thing back, like just razzed Emma, like she came and gave me a big hug and nearly tackled me. And I said, oh, that was the biggest hit you've had today, Emma. And of course the Americans like, oh my God, like that's a dreadful thing to say. Of course, I'm saying it in jest, and I'm just saying it because it is my personality. I like to have that sort of banter, etc. But it takes a while. But I think once you can show, like, because we still have to have the difficult conversations. So if I make a really, really positive relationship with an athlete, but it goes too far, and suddenly you're just the best mate. Like, I think you're in trouble when you have to have that difficult conversation. So I think from the very start, you got to say, like, listen, building a fun relationship with you is really important to me. But I need to know that I still am the person that could drop you or not pick you for an Olympic Games. And once that part of it happens, it's great. But people want to enjoy their space. They want to enjoy off field. They want to enjoy things, and you got to know when the switch is on and off. But I don't want to be a rugby coach unless I can have a laugh with the players, and unless I can have a laugh with my staff, because it is my personality. And but it does take a while. I would just urge everybody to just be themselves as much as they can, while also knowing that you have to lock in or maybe be the most detailed part of yourself at certain aspects of the game.
You've ended in that role as the Olympic Sevens coach. You've had another coaching job with Ottawa following that, and now going into the USA job. How do you feel those past experiences are going to help shape you as an individual, also your identity as a coach? But does that give you a different level of sense of purpose now going into this new role?
Like the new role and my own identity, like I'm going out of my comfort zone again. Leaving a very safe place of Canada. I'm leaving a wonderful environment of the University of Ottawa, which I feel really bad of. I've never left something so quickly, and I felt like I didn't quite finish what we wanted to do. But they were great people, and I really really enjoyed it. Like, I feel like the University of Ottawa, I don't think I've been a better coach, so I really really thank them for that. Like, I feel like I got to come in and just coach on a regular basis. So, I'm really excited for those part of it. This is a huge challenge in a huge country where I've got to respect the environment that they have. I'm not going to come in and tell them how to play rugby. I've got to learn about them as people, about the American culture. Even though I've lived in North America for a long time, it's a whole other nation, and I'm excited to do that. And I want to, as I spoke about earlier, I want to build their their trust by performing first, showing to these athletes that I'm good enough to be here and perform, and that's the thing that I'm most looking forward to.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Jack. And when you're working with different athletes at different levels of their development, results are important, and everyone wants to win. But how do you share the message with athletes to make them understand that it's not just all about medals, it's also how they develop individually whilst playing the sport?
Yeah, it's totally individual. Like, the whole thing is very, very individual, and everyone's in individual environments, and those are things that, like, just because there's a group of people playing in England and a group of people playing in France and a group of people playing domestically in the USA, like, we have to individualize things as much as possible, as, like, appreciate the halves, and not just, like, if they're playing professionally somewhere else, that they're getting everything that they need. Coming up with those individual goals are really, really important. And to do that, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm phoning every athlete from the USA. I just want to get to know them a little bit more, ask them what advice they have for me. That's the question that gets them all the time. Hey, what advice do you have for me? And they're like, oh, I didn't know you'd ask me that. But I think those are the important, parts of it. And then, like, I've realized that the thing I've noticed most about USA since starting, or since, like, about to start, hopefully, they have had a lot of changes in coaches, and I'm hopefully going to be here for 4 years and build to the next World Cup. And with that, you've got more space, you've got more time to succeed, and more time to put things in place. And that's going to be new for them, because I feel like they've been a group that are cramming for the exam. So understanding your runway, I think, is going to be a big thing, and one that I really look forward to.
For the listeners today, if they could take one thing away from this conversation about your journey, about leadership, resilience, what would you want to share with them? What could they take away so they can use it in their own journey?
In terms of the advice on creating their own leadership, I think sometimes I'm a dyslexic person, someone that, has had really high highs and really low lows. I've had some things happen in my childhood that, I think for a long time I would see things in my life as embarrassing things. And I think leadership is based on your line and your what's been done, the people you've met, the things you've taken off. And I think we need to appreciate the who you are and what shaped you. I used to be embarrassed that I was a former child actor that wants to be a rugby coach. Actually bring that into your rugby. I used to I love politics. I've brought that into my rugby. I'm a dyslexic person. There's a lot of people that identify with that, and so my reading and writing is a struggle. So now I'm an image-based coach. I know that that's me at my best. So that also, why don't I tell a story instead of write a story? Like, those are things that I've tried to use as my own X factor. So advice on anyone building their leadership is to just appreciate who you are, because it's the leader you are. It's not, don't worry about the have-nots. Like, I look at top coaches and I go, I'm not as good as them in this, and this. But also, maybe there's something I'm actually better than that. And I'm not saying that there is. I'm saying that, let's be open to that, because I think that's if we want our athletes to be their best when they're on the field and to use their X factors, we've also got to appreciate what ours are as coaches and leaders as well.
Thank you for joining us today. From Ireland to Nova Scotia onto the Olympic stage and winning the silver medal. It's a powerful reminder that resilience is built long before the world sees it. And I have no doubt your new job will see the fruits of your labor, both as a coach and the players on the field. To everyone listening, if this episode supports you in any way, please like, share and subscribe on Apple, Spotify or Amazon, or you can watch the footage on my YouTube channel, James Alder 003. Please like and subscribe. You can also find my Substack on Transformation Through Training. And if you'd like to support my channel, you can also buy me a coffee. The link is in the description box below. Your engagement helps. And I'll leave you with this thought. Trauma doesn't disappear because we ignore it. It softens when we move, when we connect, and when we build environments where people are allowed to become all again. Until next time,